I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Donahue? Here. McKnight?
Here.
Roa? Vogel? Here. Sparks?
We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you please stand? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have a cell phone, iPhone, iPad, if you wouldn't mind muting it, I'd appreciate it. I will try to remind you, but I guarantee I'll forget. So, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Pastor Bowman, if you don't mind coming to the podium and giving your name and your address, please.
Yes. Pastor Cameron Bowman, pastor of St. John Missionary Baptist Church in the great city of Meadville, as well as the NAACP president of the Meadville chapter. Yes, sir. I'm here today because I am in full support, and I stand with the NAACP in full support of the resolution that will be presented on today. I will say that I've been a Meadville resident now for 4 years, and the growth that I've seen just in a short period of time of us working with city officials has been absolutely fantastic. So I'm here to support what is going to be presented. I'm here to say that we stand behind it in any way that we can help and assist to work together. We are here to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marcia?
Hi, Marcia Metcalf, also with the NAACP Political Action Committee, and I want to thank you once again for your ongoing support for the dialogue that's been ongoing between the committee and the city. Also here to urge you to support the resolution. We have become really informed thanks to the work of the chief and the city managers in understanding the barriers for recruiting and hiring a more diverse police force. They are real and they are substantial. This resolution won't make that all go away, but it does, I think, provide an important statement of the city's commitment to work towards relieving those barriers and creating a force that is more representative of the community that it serves. And to echo Pastor Bowman, we stand ready to assist in any way we can. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Reverend Manning.
My name is Pastor Gary Manning, pastor of Byrd Street Church of God here in the city of Meadville. I live at North Gate, if anybody knows where that is. That's where I live. I'm here to talk about the sign that I have been trying to get put up in the city for the last, I guess, 2-3 months. Martin Luther King sign, 3x4 sign. I was trying to get it put up in 2nd District School, along with the other sign that's down there talking about the liberation of the first segregated school in the state of Pennsylvania. Since I've been working on that sign, I've been finding out a lot of things that I should have known when I first started this project. One of the roadblocks you run into was that we received a letter from the school board or school district, and they said that I had to take out a $500,000 to $1 million insurance policy on the sign that only costs about $300-something. So I knew that it would take some time to raise that kind of money because it would cost me $750 a year to cover that insurance policy. So I went and talked to my lawyer. I talked to my insurance agent, and both of them agreed that that wouldn't be a good idea. So what I wanted to do was to donate this sign to the city if they would take it. But there's another roadblock that I'm looking into right now, and that's the copyright laws. I need to, I've written to Martin Luther King Center down on land. I'm waiting for a response from them so far. I haven't gotten one. sent it in maybe 3 or 4 days ago. They said they would get back to me, but they haven't. What I'm understanding, what I went to studying or looking into this, they have something that's called, now I can't remember it, public domain. They said they have something called public domain. And also, the picture that I'm using may not be from Martin Luther King Central. I think it came from Detroit paper down in Detroit. So I also wrote them to see if I can get a response about the copy laws. But I really would like to get that sign put up, and I'd like to donate to the city. The city would accept it. I think it'd be a nice thing for our community. It's not just for it's not a one-sided sign where it's just for one group of people, it's for everybody. So if you will, be patient with me until I find out about these copy laws and let me know what the city decides to do. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Reverend Manning, have you considered, like, maybe, so it's the artwork that is copyright
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
that's tough to use?
The picture, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, like, if maybe like a local, right, like a local artist, I know, not local anymore, but like Steve Prince had done a really great print of Amanda, right? Like thinking that someone local, it might be easier, right, to navigate that.
Yeah, I'll check into that.
With someone here who might, just be willing to give that and not want to have copyright protections.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Don. Mr. Byrd, Sam.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council people.
Good evening.
My name is Sam Byrd. I live at 636 Washington Street. And unlike Pastor Bowman, he's been here 4 years, I've been here for 40 years plus. And I'm pleased to say that I rise to support the resolution that's on the agenda today for the diversity and inclusion. It doesn't come with many stumbling blocks as it does with Pastor Manning's efforts. And I thank God for that. I'd like to say, as a Meadville resident, I wasn't born here, I wasn't raised here. I moved here, I chose Meadville after I graduated high school at Erie Academy. But I've been here long enough to see our city and our community turn over and make progress. This is one step down that road of progress again. I want to commend council for submitting this resolution, for the support of diversity in our city. Our city is diverse. It's good to see that recognized today. And I hope we continue along that journey to recognize the diversity that's within our city and our community, because we're better together than alone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your comments this evening. Appreciate that. Notice of executive sessions, Katie?
Your Honor, there was no executive session held after the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve the minutes of August 4th. Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel?
Hi.
Stearns?
Aye. Katie, we have one letter of communication. I guess I'll ask you a question before we get started. Did we get a clear copy of what was sent to us?
No, Your Honor, we did not.
We did not.
No.
We received a letter from Frederick Douglass IV, and the communication was, I think council may have got a copy of that. It was quite difficult to read that. So in the process, we've asked him to resend that to us in a different type of format. So I want to recognize that we received a letter from him. As soon as we get a clear copy, so it's readable, then we'll put it back on communications. Is council okay with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mary Ann, Manager's Report?
Thank you. So just a few things. So in regards to COVID-19, the county is still in the substantial community transmission level. So effective on Monday of this week, any public and staff entering the city building, the fire department, the public works department, the police department will be required to wear a mask. Council, you also have a grants spreadsheet in your packet, just for your information. Debbie Coral put this together. Basically, all of the grants that the city has applied and received since 2013. This totals about $5 million in grants.
Marian, was that, this is just informational, so that we have this, or is there something we should be?
Just informational at this point. Also, new amendments to the Sunshine Act were released and go into effect at the end of this month. The Sunshine Act is where the transparency and information comes into play with the public and media. The new amendments to this make it so you have to post the agenda 24 hours in advance, both on the website as well as the location the meeting will be held. And there are very few exceptions to when an agenda can be changed.
Sorry, where will the physical agenda be?
So we've set up a bulletin board inside by the treasurer's office here, and then other agencies who have their meetings off-site will post at their buildings. And the last thing I have is I was approached by the Pennsylvania Association of Housing and Redevelopment Agencies to be a speaker and panelist at their statewide convention in Pittsburgh in September. So just for council's FYI. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Any questions for Mary Ann? I'm gonna, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Regarding the plaque, the Martin Luther King Jr. plaque that Reverend Manning is working on, is that something we can add to the agenda for next time to have that discussion about receiving the donation?
Yeah,
Or
as long as we get all the
how
legal stuff.
I guess just like to firm up like where the council stands in terms of like accepting that donation or not, or?
You can do that. That would be up to council's discretion as to whether or not they add it.
Otherwise, I guess would we just be waiting for word? Is that?
Yeah, it would be waiting until the copyright issues are all
Okay.
taken care of. Because right now it's more of a hypothetical if
Right.
this happens.
Okay. Any other questions for Mary Ann? I've received a lot of calls. I don't know if you council members have received them about the mask that we've issued. So I'm gonna make a statement on that. When our city manager makes a recommendation to council and for the safety of our employees, I'm fully supporting the mask to be worn when you come into the city building. This is a safety that we want to make sure that our staff and the community, the numbers are growing. We had another 13 today. I haven't kept track of the numbers going. But I am going to support making sure that our staff is at least kept as safe as possible during this, because we're not sure what this other vaccine's going to do and what's going to happen. So Mary Ann, I just want you to know that you have my support in this on wearing the mask. So if anybody calls me, yes, I am supporting the mask and I'm not changing my mind. If council has any other comments, you're welcome to. If not, we'll move on. Council members' policies, priorities for 2021. Home rule, is still there. Any movement from council, or any comments from council on that?
I think we're expecting a presentation on that in September.
That's correct.
Okay. Develop, maintaining comprehensive multi-year capital improvement plan. I think we're going to probably be talking about that.
That's
during the
correct.
process.
The department heads have received notification of all of the bullet points about what needs to be included in the capital improvement plan. So they're working on that currently.
Town hall, countywide reassessment still on hold.
It is, and the question for council, since this has been on hold for quite some time, would council be amenable to removing it from the agenda, or would you like to keep it as a placeholder?
I think with our budget coming up in the next few months, maybe that can be put back on the agenda after January, if so, the council wants to put it back on. Doesn't really matter.
I don't think it's gonna have a great deal of effect in the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're taking it off, I'm wondering like, why did we put it on in the first place? Why was it a priority? And like what changed in that time? I know we had a meeting with the county, which honestly didn't go, I think, any differently than we anticipated it would, right? We know that the
Right.
county doesn't want to do a reassessment, so like, I guess I'm just wondering what changed between, you know, setting this priority and now to make us want to take this off, right? We haven't seen any motion.
Yeah.
And so I guess I just want to acknowledge that before we would remove it without kind of saying anything.
Yeah. I mean, we did meet with the county. We had a couple meetings with them. I don't think it's going to go any further, other than the city may have to take separate action to get this started. And I don't think starting it right now is going to give enough time to get the process started while this council is in session. So that was my thinking. So it's up to you. We can leave it there. You can
Take it off.
On? We can take it?
It's like the majority says, take it off, so it doesn't really matter what I say. I think it should remain a priority, but it sounds like it's coming off.
It's
so
not on
that's-
council, it's on the county commissioners, so we can talk about it all we want. Don't get two county commissioners to agree, you're just talking yourselves.
Sure. I mean, at some point, we saw that it was within our power enough to add it to our agendas.
No, I
and to
said it
come
wasn't, I was the one that said no, so, just don't do that.
Larry?
I'd say leave it.
Jim?
As I said, I don't think it's gonna make any difference. I mean, it's important, but our plate is so full for the next 4 months that we're just going to keep passing on this. We have budget coming up, we have capital borrowing to do. We have a zoning ordinance that's been staring us in the face for several months, and we haven't taken step one on it. All of which are important functions. When are we going to fit this in?
My thing is out of sight, out of mind. I say we leave it on, that way, you know, even if residents see it, they're gonna know that it's still a priority. We may not get to it because then I'm quite sure they're wise enough to understand that there's other things that are more important with the budget and things of that nature. But I think we should leave it on to let them know it's not something that we're just doing away with. For no, you know, for any unapparent reason.
We can go ahead and leave it on in case something would change in this process. It's not going to hurt anything. So let's go ahead and just leave it on. Good. Three.
Fine with me.
Okay. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. The stamp update, I think we're going to working on that, correct?
That's correct. So what you do have in your packet, though, is those immediate recommendations that the stamp program gave to you. We had the Vista, Brenna is here, go through those and give you a color-coded list of what's completed, what's in progress, what's not been started, and what may or may not be advised after looking further into the recommendations. You also have a little narrative for each of those about where things stand, just for your reference again.
Any other questions on those?
Is that something we can share, right? Like the plan has been, it's on the website for people to see. Can we share the update and
Yes.
the public?
Okay. Council members subcommittee reports, beautification committee. Autumn, Larry, anything on that?
No updates since last time.
Flower sales?
Flower sales are done. I don't know how many in total we sold, but I sold 20 mums, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Well, we did go on that tour,
Right. There, yeah.
and
the
It was
the Shade Tree
interesting.
Commission?
Learned a lot about trees. Also learned that a lot of people, elderly people on the lower end of South Main in that area had problems with branches and stuff falling or laying in their yard. So we went down and looked at it. And all they have to do is call the city. Call the city streets department, and they will take care of it. I was very impressed with the work that they're doing and the knowledge that they have of the trees and what they want to do. And if anybody has any areas that they would like trees planted in, please contact them.
Yeah, and that was Beautification Committee was invited to a shade tree tour by the Shade Tree Commission,
Right.
which was also like a nice collaboration.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, I couldn't attend, but really well done.
Yeah, it's another sign showing Meadville, people in Meadville wanting to work together and make this a better place.
Okay. I did see on Facebook the tree in the chimney. It's on the junior high,
Yes.
and I believe I might win this contest. I think it's a sugar maple.
Now everyone's gonna
No.
post.
Yeah, there you go.
We just got a bunch of challengers.
Yeah, there you go. Finance Subcommittee, Jim, any comments?
Well, we have representatives from Benning and Scattergood here tonight to talk about the bond issuance, so that will be coming up fairly soon.
Ready?
It's getting closer.
Now that was style. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. French Creek Council of Governments, nothing. NAACP Subcommittee, we heard from you this evening. Thank you for supporting that. And Autumn and Larry, I believe you're on that committee. Do you want to make any comments or?
No, I guess no, say something. I'm just happy with the way things are progress that I see with the police department, with the city, working to make this a better place. And I would encourage anybody, reach out, talk to them. One of the things that I would love to do is spend a day with them and see until you've been in a cruiser with them and see what they go through, you don't know. And I think that's something that, I know it's something I want to do, that way to help appreciate what they do, and also, to be honest, to appreciate what they need, what they're asking for. What better way is to spend a day with them and be in the vehicle, see the problems that they're faced with, to make a better decision.
Redevelopment, I don't have any updates. You, Larry?
No.
Okay. Recreation Subcommittee, you guys had your meeting up in Heidi Cooper.
Yeah.
Any updates since then?
Nothing really since then, no.
And tax exempt, Jim?
Nothing new to report.
Okay. Old business authorities, boards and commission, Katie?
Your Honor, the notice for vacancies on authority boards and commissions did go out in the paper, as well as on the city's website. That application period is open through the end of business Friday, August 27th. There is one vacant seat for zoning hearing board alternate, one vacant seat on the market authority, and 3 vacant seats on beautification committee.
Does Beautification Committee go through this process?
The beautification committee has 2 different processes. The beautification committee every year, they present an annual list for council's approval, but council can also appoint individuals throughout the year.
Okay.
And if I can just interject, we are going to leave it up to the chair of the committee, and she can decide if she wants to initiate the interviews. But we just have solicited as mass advertising the positions open.
Katie, when do you want, when will we determine what interview processes we as council are sitting in on? That you want us to do tonight?
I think if council's amenable to it, I'd wait until we have all the applications in case we don't get applications for one of the vacancies, then there's no need to go through that.
New business ordinance, first and final reading, bond ordinance series 2021. Katie?
Formal action constituting a debt ordinance under the Local Government Unit Debt Act authorizing the incurring of non-electrical debt for the purpose of providing funds for certain capital projects and improvements through the issuance of general obligation bonds in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $5 million, covenanting to pay and pledging tax and power for the payment of the bonds, establishing a sinking fund and appointing a sinking fund depository, fixing the form, interest rate, maturity, redemption, and other provisions for the payment thereof, accepting a proposal for the purchase of the bonds, authorizing a filing of required documents with the Department of Community and Economic Development, ratifying and directing certain actions of officers, and making certain other covenants and provisions in respect of the bonds.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Who am I going to throw this to?
I'll just say that Pat Healy and John McShane are here to discuss the bond ordinance and then address any questions that council may have.
Sorry, I
Welcome.
jumped the gun earlier. I was so excited to get to this podium. Seriously, it's great to be here again in person. This resolution is very similar to what you've seen in the past, or ordinance is very similar to what you've seen in the past. The not to exceed, we're not in a position yet that we're ready to enter the markets. What this is a placeholder for us is we don't have to have a meeting again when we are eventually ready. This is for all new capital, and it's a not to exceed of $5 million. But before we get into exactly how much it's going to cost, let's look at the overall market, where it's been over the last year. The first page is a graph of a 20-year municipal bond. The city has been very fortunate that the majority of its debt in the past 3 years, as interest rates have gone lower and lower. In fact, last year, we entered in and locked in the majority of its debt at all-time lows in the marketplace. So the city's been very fortunate in its overall debt portfolio of having some of the lowest interest rates in the marketplace. We've been talking to the administration about this project since probably April. And we were trying to decide, well, we weren't really sure how much, when, what your actual needs were until the budget for next year. And through Debbie and through Tim, decided that, okay, we know roundabout what the amounts are. Let's get the ordinance passed and put you in a position that everything that's going on in the marketplace, we know we're at or near all-time lows now. But there's a lot of noise in the marketplace if you're watching CNBC. You know, is there hyperinflation? Is it under control? Is the Delta variant going to expand to a position where it's going to shut down the economy again? These are all weighing the markets. And what we're actually seeing is a market that's almost more volatile than we've seen in a decade, where we're seeing interest rate shifts of anywhere from 10 to 15 basis points in a 2-day period, which doesn't sound like a lot, but can mean a lot when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. It can mean tens of thousands of dollars to your annual payment. So that being said, we knew it was important. Let's get this resolution ordinance passed and put you in a position that as soon as we get a rating in place, which can take 2 to 3 weeks, get the insurance, get documentation complete, that we can then enter the marketplace and lock in rates as soon as possible, because we know you have your capital needs. We know you need the money. Now it's important. Let's get it locked in. And that's what this ordinance that you have in front of you is going to do. Now, the final page, or the third page in, is just going to show you the amortization schedule, what you can expect to pay on this new issue. On the left-hand side, these principal, coupon are the interest rates associated with market today. That changes minute by minute, day by day. So this is just estimates based on today's rates. The average, if you were to average those rates together, is about 2.2%. The amortization, you can see the most of the principles in the back end. It's called a wraparound amortization. And the reason it's done that way is because we look at your debt portfolio like your mortgage of your house. We add this to that debt portfolio so that when you add it all together, your annual payment doesn't change. So it doesn't look at it as an individual piece, it looks at the cumulative piece, so that you have one level annual payment out to a certain time period. So this would bring your debt out to 2044. You can see next to the left of the highlighted blue column is your existing debt. And you can see this debt folds into that so that you have an increase on the right-hand side off of that blue total of about $88,000. So this, we're estimating 4.1, you have a resolution for 5, but 4.1 would cost you just under $90,000 per year under today's rates in this wraparound scenario. And that's how the majority of your new capital has been financed in the last 10 years as well. So again, we estimate your payment's going to be just over 2%. Your final payment's going to go out to the year 2044, and we hope to potentially be in the bond market within 3 weeks if you pass your ordinance tonight. And I'll be glad to answer any questions at this time.
I have a couple of questions. John, you and I spoke earlier, and I asked the question if any of our existing bonds are trading at discount. You said that is not the case because the rates are so low, they actually are worth a premium. Is that correct?
Based in general, I would think that most of your bonds are trading at a higher rate than when you issued them,
Okay,
a higher
so-
price than when you issued them, correct?
So there's no benefit to the city in trying to call the bonds and buy them back at discount. We wouldn't be saving any money.
Right, right. So, just follow up to that question. As rates rise, so when you issue bonds, you're done with the transaction. Those are your interest rates. But the buyer of bonds can buy and sell those bonds at any time. As rates go up, their value goes down. It doesn't affect you. But sometimes there are rare situations where interest rates spike up. They bought $5 million worth of bonds off you. Now their value is only worth $4.5 million. They want to sell them in the marketplace, and I think what he's referring to is if you have cash on hand, can you buy them back? The answer is you can do that if and when that becomes available. It's just not currently available.
Okay. The next question is probably more for our legal counsel. Gary, do we need, or is there in here, a mutual hold harmless indemnification clause in this ordinance?
In the ordinance,
Yeah.
with which parties indemnifying?
Each party indemnifying the other. Do we need that?
I don't recall if we include that. This ordinance is identical to the past ones, and I'd have to.
We also have.
Pat Billy and I spoke earlier today. I
Bond
can't
counsel is
remember.
also counsel for the city as well, so his specialty, you could probably jump in on that.
Sure. I'm not sure what the mutual hold harmless would apply to in this ordinance.
Right.
This is just an ordinance that says we'll issue bonds, or we have the choice, rather, this doesn't compel you to issue bonds. We have the choice if we want to issue bonds up to $5 million in principal amount. And a lot of the verbiage has to do with we'll comply with federal tax law, we'll comply with federal security law, we'll comply with the state debt act law, which has many, it's very old law, has many different pieces, it's very arcane. In order for an entity like, a public entity like a city to issue debt in Pennsylvania. It doesn't require, it doesn't force you to issue the debt, it just allows you to enter into a bond purchase agreement, which is a contract between the city and Benning and Scattergood, that'll lock in the rates John was referring to and the amount of the principal John was talking about. And that document is what actually locks in the borrower. And so in this ordinance, there's no mutual harmless indemnification because I'm not sure what you would indemnify us for, we would indemnify you for. It's really just a process.
Well, for example, if the bonds were issued under the presumption they're tax exempt and they were found to be taxable, does that come back against us?
Yes, and then you'd come after us.
Correct. Indemnification.
Yeah, so, yeah, there's no way under the federal tax code or the law of you as the issuer getting out of being the first guy they look at, the first person they look at. But then there is, no doubt that then you would go after the professionals because at the end of the day, when you issue bonds, you issue an opinion.
Right.
That says these bonds are tax exempt and everything that was required to be done, along with your solicitor, required to be done was done in a proper fashion. So if something wasn't and it unravels at some point in some way, you have these two opinions. If it's a tax issue, it's my opinion. You come back on and say, you make us whole. You gotta, whatever it takes. It's your responsibility, financially or otherwise.
Okay, I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Any other questions? John? No? Staff?
Just a reminder for council, this is an ordinance that's read just once as opposed to the traditional 3 times. So this will be passed on first and final reading if you choose to do so.
And that's because the Debt Act provides for that.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel? Stearns?
Aye. Discussion.
I'm so sorry. If you could just,
Two? Want that now? You don't mind? Not at all. Okay, you want that signed in blue? Well, we're gonna quickly move on that. You're welcome. Oh, here's your pen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. John.
See you.
yeah, can do.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
We have a discussion on short-term capital planning.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this was a point brought up by council to discuss possible avenues to explore when it came to putting funds and fines and fees into short-term capital. The plan is I'm going to run through what I have listed out for council. You can stop me at any time to discuss. So the first option is third-party billing. This is already happening. And when council passed the third-party billing, they earmarked this for the fire department for the purchase of future equipment replacement. You also have for the fire department their ambulance service fee agreement, request for fire reports, commercial occupancy inspections, self-contained breathing cylinder refills and oxygen bottles, fire alarm fees. And a note on the fire alarm fees, council could look into increasing those fees.
Didn't we just discuss those? Weren't those recently, like within the last year? Those, I thought we had looked at. I thought, Mike says yes, so I'm gonna say yes. So I think those were recently explored.
When we did the third-party billing, it was part of,
It was-
At least 2 years ago.
that was last year.
Third-party billing?
Third-party
Oh, third-party
billing, we just
bill,
did
yes,
that
I'm
a couple
sorry.
months ago.
Time. Anyway.
So those would pertain to the fire department. So concerning the police department, you could look into the local ordinance violations. I've listed out for council the articles that the police typically cite local ordinance violations. These fines could look to be increased for various things. Right now, for example, drunkenness prohibited, the fines range from $1 to $20. So council could look into reassessing the fee schedule there. Another option that we came up with and discussed was giving officers on the ground another option to charging for small possessions of marijuana. So instead of charging under criminal code, they could charge it as a local ordinance violation. I actually have Chief Totten here to discuss that a little further if council's willing to hear him out.
Sure.
So, looking at our drug trends over the last 5 years, I think everyone can agree that not only Meadville, but nationwide, we have a drug problem. So just our numbers from 2015, simple possession of marijuana, we had 20 incidents. In 2020, 60. Paraphernalia, 44 in 2015, 138 in 2020. The most disturbing trend, at least as far as I'm concerned, are heavier drugs. In 2015, we had 40 incidents. In 2020, we had 178. Drug charges take a lot of time. Even if you're looking at the simple possession of a small amount of marijuana, it takes an officer off the street for a considerable amount of time. You have to do a criminal complaint, you're packaging drug evidence, you're sending it up to the lab, and you're filing the charges. It seems to me that we need a different method to handle those small amounts of marijuana. As it stands now, once charges are filed, it's an ungraded misdemeanor. Has to go in front of the magistrate for a preliminary hearing. That, if the magistrate binds the charges over, they get shipped over to the county court where there's 3 or 4 more steps. There's a formal arraignment, there's a call to the list, there's pleas, and then if it goes that far, there's trial. Tying up not only my officer's time, department resources, but now you have county time and resources to an already, overburdened system. Looking at the idea of, and I'm not using the word decriminalization because that's not accurate. That's not what we're doing. It's still, marijuana's still illegal. It's a different option, different tool for officers to use in handling of these cases. Making it a summary offense takes it down to pretty much one step. The officer would issue a citation through the magistrate's office. If the individual takes a hearing, then it goes in front of the magistrate who has a determination. The county system can take up to a year or more, depending on how busy they are, where you are, the trial terms, the call to the list. As far as the magistrates, you might be a month or 2 out at most, depending on his court schedule. So you're going to have a more immediate, interaction, more immediate result to these charges. I think there's a lot of positives on both ends. For the department, it saves me time, it saves resources. We're still enforcing the law, but we're doing it much more expeditiously, and officers can take a lot more time handling other incidents. That goes with paperwork, that goes with the assistant chief's time in handling all this evidence. On the individual's part, it's now a summary offense. It's the same grading as a traffic ticket. When you look at employment, possible student loans, financial aid, having that misdemeanor charge on your record can be debilitating, can be a big deal. Now you're still going to have an incident, but it's a summary offense, same, like I said before, it's the same grading as a traffic ticket. I think it's something we really should look into. Like I said, I don't like the idea of calling it decriminalization because it's not that. This is still a crime. It's just we're handling it in a different way that has some benefits to everyone involved, including that the officers now have a new tool where I see it especially in first-time offenders. You get that person who makes a stupid mistake, they're doing something dumb. Instead of handicapping them possibly forever with this charge, we can go a different route to where we're still doing our job, we're still making it that we don't want drugs in our community, but we have a little more leeway in how we're enforcing it.
But you have your choice to do it as a summary or a...
Officers would have their choice, it'd be their discretion.
Mike, is there any other community or third-class city that are gone through this process and brought it down to a summary offense?
Several. I know State College did it, and I believe 2016, Erie did it in 2018. Throughout the state, there's several other.
Mike, under the present system, your officers could be required twice, once to appear before Pendolino and once over here at the county, whereas with the summary, it would be a single appearance at most.
Yeah, and this is assuming we don't get a lot of hearings that are continued. Especially when it comes to the preliminary hearings, the magistrate always errs on the side of allowing the person to have, representation. So if for some reason they can't get representation for the first hearing, now it's continued, now I have 2 possible times I'm paying them to come and do a hearing here, and then doing over the other side. If you get different issues like a suppression hearing, Now I'm up to maybe 4.
All of which take officers.
Takes it either off the street or we're paying overtime to send them.
So Mike, if you don't mind me asking, misdemeanor, what is the maximum fines and penalties for that?
For the ungraded misdemeanor, the maximum fine's $500 with 30 days possible imprisonment.
And under the summary offense, what's that, 300?
We were gonna put it at 300. Now, as I say, it's a maximum fine of $500 over at the county. People may never see that. If our fine's set at 300, there's no jail time. It's still a summary offense, but I think we're still gonna have the deterrent of you have a guarantee, this is your fine, and it's gonna be happening pretty quickly down the road.
So if you go under
So
the
the
summary,
immediacy, I think, still is gonna act as a deterrent for us.
so if you go under the summary offense, it's a 30-day, 10-day on the citation, 30 days to respond?
10 days to respond.
Okay.
And then depending on how you respond, if you plead guilty, the magistrate levies the fine, and then usually they'll set up a payment plan with you. If you plead guilty, then you're at the mercy of what the court schedule is. If you plead not guilty, you're at the mercy of the court schedule to whenever they can fit in.
So under a summary offense, the fines, if I'm not mistaken, goes to the Commonwealth or the state.
We would get that fine.
No, under summary, we don't get fined. Do we get the fines?
Summary is what we're talking about putting in place.
Right.
Where a larger portion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say
all of it
misdemeanor.
would come to
The
local
misdemeanor.
municipality versus being shared amongst the state and the county.
Right, I'm doing it backwards.
Yes, the misdemeanor, we'd get a small portion of that fine. The summary, we would get the lion's share of the fine.
So the process would be faster?
Yes.
And it would be giving that individual that may have made that mistake a one-chance deal to...
You're giving them a chance that, this is a mistake you made, let's all learn from it, we're still enforcing the drug law.
But the officer will always have the ability to go to the crimes code other than our ordinance, correct?
Absolutely.
So that would be up to the officer to make that decision at the time?
Yes.
So under the present situation, if you arrested someone that had a joint, and they go the misdemeanor route, and that person were majoring in education or criminal justice, they might be barred from getting a job, or they would have to go through an expungement process in order to get jobs in those areas.
Yes, as well as the possibility of maybe losing financial aid, not being eligible for loans.
You brought up a good point. Now, what about those, if this comes into effect, are ones that already have been charged? Are they going to have to be able to, it's going to be easier for them to get the record expunged, or is that going to be something that's, that's in the past and this is now?
Expungements, they all go through the county court, so we have no, we don't have any control of that.
I don't think it will help that.
Okay.
The $300 fine amount that you're talking about, is that for possession of marijuana and for paraphernalia, like total, or is it like, does it double, right? Does it become 600?
It could be 600, there'd be 2 citations.
It's 2 citations for 600, and so those amounts, the 300 for each violation, I saw in like our notes to council that it, that the fines from other places ranges pretty greatly. Wondering like where that falls. Does that fall like on the higher end of what we see other places, or on the lower end of what other communities in PA have done?
It's on line with the higher end.
Okay.
The whole goal is to not make this look like a legalization of it. It's still a offense, and you should be punished as such, but not to the extent that it bars you and your future and has a negative impact on that.
Does Westmead and Vernon, do they have this?
No.
They're both.
I think the fine amount, like I said, still offers us that deterrent of, it's still illegal, it's still a drug. But with the fine paid, you don't have the possible life-changing shackle of the misdemeanor.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really, I'm really appreciative of all the work going into this, and I think that it is a good move for all the reasons, on both ends that you brought up, Chief. I do wonder, right, though, if at the officer's discretion for each charge, right, like how do we remain consistent and what can people expect, right? Like, there, you know, to me that leaves a lot up, like, is there a possibility for adopting a policy or something that we could kind of
We'll
point
look
to?
into policies on it.
Yeah.
So the officers are given an amount of discretion. Each individual case is going to be different. You know, we might have someone that we've arrested several times for dealing different drugs, and now we have them with a small amount of marijuana. Well, that person's, you know, been a lifetime. He's been charged for, you know, multiple times for dealing heroin or whatever. He's probably not going to get the summary citation. If we get the Allegheny College kid who made a dumb mistake, ran into us at the wrong time, he's got a little bit of marijuana, first time mistake, more than likely that's gonna be the summary citation.
Right. So I guess in that instance though, like someone who's dealing, right, they're gonna have larger amounts of drugs and and they might have different drugs, right? So I would imagine that there's other
Well, he might have
ways
this
that we
one
can get
time-
them, right?
This one time, the one that we've dealt with before might
Yeah.
just have that one little bit of marijuana. So we've dealt with him before, we have a known criminal history, this is a lifestyle, nothing's changing. Right now, he just has a small amount of marijuana, more than likely won't get the summary citation.
When you're saying small amount, up to what amount?
30 grams.
30 grams?
Roughly, just under an
That's
ounce.
just like, okay. I guess my only concern with that is that, are you guys setting yourselves up for someone hauling discrimination for, I mean, like you said, you may have someone that you know has been dealing, that you've arrested, but then maybe that one person that, you know, well, hey, you let Joe Blow over there off with just a fine. I'm basically the same thing. I just got caught with possession, simple possession. How are you going to prevent the looking of difference of treatment to different people? I mean, and still, you know, perform what you want to do.
That's a good question. I mean, that's what policing, that's one of the main questions we always run into. Why did he or she get a ticket or didn't get a ticket and I did? That's with a lot of different criminal charges, and there's no good answer to it other than it is our responsibility to monitor. And I think in a case like this, being a new ordinance, that we should be monitoring the arrest and issuing reports to the city manager's office on, you know, across the board on who's being arrested, you know.
Great. That's
The entire
what
thing, reporting it.
Good.
That's how we'll know.
That's a legitimate concern with an ordinance like this.
One of the big issues from my standpoint, I could tell a story, but I'm not sure I should. No, I will. There's someone I knew extremely well, intimately, who got arrested for speeding a number of years ago. And the fine was $116, and of that, $12.50 went to the city. Everything else went to the district magistrate and this fund, that fund, and another fund. You wouldn't have that issue if you're citing under, and again, that was traffic, but that was being cited under a state ordinance as opposed to a local one. In this case, you'd have basically the city getting the fine and the magistrate getting the cost. That's close to being accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
So in traffic, we get half the fine. Normal traffic fines are $25, so there's the $12.50.
$12.50.
With the city ordinance, we would get the fine, they would get the costs,
But we bear 100% of the cost for
everything else.
incrementally small, okay.
The only other thing I wanted to note, when Autumn said the small amount of marijuana and then the paraphernalia, this person could have two summaries equaling $600 in fines, plus costs is a lot of money. And I would say not always, but typically on two citations, there's usually the person may be willing to plead to the one and the officer will excuse the second. We try not to stack charges on a person if they're willing to accept responsibility for their actions. I can't say that that's going to happen every time because it's the officer's discretion, but I would say that is the typical response from our police department.
Mary Ann, Does this dovetail into another potential source of revenue?
Are you referring to the incarceration?
Yes.
Fees? Yes. Do you have any, before I let them go, do you have any other questions for?
I guess, I would just want to know, well, I'll make a comment and then I have a question. The comment would be that I understand having to penalize, right, that it is still, that we're not making it a not offense, but I would advocate for looking at something on the mid to lower range of what's been put out there in the state in terms of fines. I recognize, right, that this is coming up as a way to raise short-term capital revenue, and there could be a way to still do that, but especially based on what I heard from Chief Totten, right, there's also savings that we're gonna see from this as well, right, especially with police time. And so, it might be able to kind of balance out and not be quite as much as a hardship, and we can.
The judge also has a certain leeway in how he assesses fines, does he not?
Unless the fine is set.
Set.
Which
If the
we
fine
would
is set,
do
then
right
that's the
this
fine.
board.
Then he could theoretically suspend it, even if it's set, he could suspend it.
He could do that.
Yeah.
And then-
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to point out as well, with the criminal citations, you also have court costs associated with that.
Right.
And then also, if you hire an attorney to represent you, you have those. So
And expunging, yeah,
You
yeah.
could also get charged
just
from
that's something to
probation
consider as well.
Oh, yeah.
Still.
Supervisory.
You could get supervisory costs from probation on top of the rest of it that you didn't see coming with the criminal aspect.
If we could, though, we would recommend, the city manager said, a set fine rather than a floating fine. And that goes back to Larry's question of how everybody's treated, and that helps in the fair treatment. So, they're getting the same fine. Somebody's not getting worse than the other, and the judges are, always as fair as possible, but it just kind of makes it even easier on them.
Are you able to keep track with the summary? In other words, if someone is cited for possession the first time, do you have a mechanism where you can say, wait a minute, we've cited this person 8 times?
Yes.
Our records management, we can.
Okay.
It would cause some digging. It wouldn't just show everyone arrested for this. We could dig into each individual person that we know.
Okay.
And see it that way.
And then the question is, what is next, right? Like, do you just need from council, like, a sense of where we're at, and then we kind of formulate with that?
Tonight is just
policy?
intended to be just a general overview. We would, if there's a consensus of interest, we'll come back with a draft ordinance for consideration, discussion. We can talk about fines, set other parameters in the ordinance.
I'd be willing to continue this discussion.
So would I.
Definitely.
So you got the consensus.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work on that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So as Councilman Rowe said, that this leads to the other option that was posed. Could the city implement an incarceration fee? Attorney Spatafor was posed this question. She came back with a memo, legal opinion, saying that yes, you could do so as long as it was related to a local ordinance violation. So if someone was brought in on a state or federal charge and held in the holding cells, they would not be allowed to be charged an incarceration fee. You could include the incarceration fee as part of the ordinance that you would enact. So you go back and refine the fee schedule essentially to include an incarceration fee.
And that would most likely be under 71303, drunkenness prohibited. That would probably be about the only one
That's right.
we would be doing that with. Are we going to discuss upgrading the fines for these other ones?
We can certainly do that. Again, tonight was more intended for your awareness, and then council can choose what we focus on next steps in sort of the short-term capital discussion. So if you'd like to have a discussion item next meeting as increasing or looking at the fines, we can certainly do that.
I think it'd be a good idea.
I think so.
Okay.
You're talking about those,
The local ordinances, the 713s on this one.
okay, yeah. Okay,
So it would cover disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, disorderly houses, weapons and explosives. Those are kind of the three categories in the policing realm that we have fines. You'll also see that we have parking enforcement. These are year-to-date numbers that you have, so between all of the fines, parking enforcement has brought in about $40,000. This does not include any fine that has gone to citation, so no fees assessed by the magistrate have been included in that figure. Also, other things to consider, real estate, so a portion of the proceeds from the sale of 984 Water Street, looking to put that into a short-term capital fund. Any parks, special event permits, race parade permits, those can also be options to put into a short-term capital fund, perhaps for public works, up to council's discretion on that. Also, two other options, kind of naming and advertising rights, and then an endowment. Councilman Roa had brought up both of those as possible options for council to explore.
what is the naming and advertising rights?
Well, okay. Where do the Steelers play? Heinz Field? Where do the Pirates play? PNC Park. Those were not named just to be nice. Those were named because someone paid money for the naming rights to those facilities. So the question is, do we have anything? And just like you see, I'll use NASCAR drivers. Every inch of their helmets, outfit, and vehicle have names on them, which are product placement, and they cost money. I guess the question is, could we try to get, I'm thinking of a couple of tax exempts, to have naming rights or advertising rights on certain pieces of equipment in response or in exchange for a very hefty donation toward the purchase of those pieces of equipment. Following?
So like the Allegheny College police cruiser? No, I'm
Yeah.
like, is that what we mean?
Yeah, or compliments of Allegheny College, or compliments of Meadville Medical Center on a fire
Gator
truck.
fire truck.
I mean, obviously, there are certain things you don't want advertised.
Change your cars to green, Gator green.
Not a priority for me. I don't know where other folks are.
And these are just options,
Right.
just something to consider for discussion. That's all that I have under the short-term capital.
Any other questions?
So next time, we're gonna look at the local ordinance violations and the fees, and, I mean, is that what we plan to do with this, is to kind of like pick pieces and discuss them at future council meetings to
Yes.
explore?
Any other questions?
Indeed.
Okay, we have a resolution. Katie? To commit to support diversity.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Meadville reaffirming the city's commitment to a strong and respectful community by supporting diversity and inclusion within the City of Meadville Police Department. Resolved by the Council of the City of Meadville that whereas human diversity can be defined as differences in race, ethnicity, nationality, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical capabilities, and religious beliefs, and all these vast diversities exist among and between the residents of the City of Meadville and communities everywhere. And whereas council recognizes diversity, inclusion, and equity are essential to a positive and healthy community and a society at large through the encouragement of different ideas, beliefs, experiences, and perspectives, while promoting personal growth by challenging stereotypes, preconceptions, and bias. And whereas human diversity is not always sufficiently represented in either broad or specific ways amongst those who serve and protect our community, especially the most vulnerable amongst us. And whereas the Council of the City of Meadville desires to explore options to diversify the City of Meadville Police Department to better represent the community as a whole. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Meadville hereby reaffirms its commitment to strengthen the community and foster mutual respect by supporting diversity and inclusion in the City of Meadville Police Department.
So moved.
Motion. Second. Any comments? Questions? Roll call.
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel? Stearns?
Aye, there you go, it's already signed.
Well, you've got other stuff to sign.
Motion approved.
Okay. If you guys wanted to leave, or you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
I'll hear you in 2 seconds.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Chris, how you been?
Okay.
Good. See you
We
later.
can get rid of the mosquitoes in Crawford County. My hero.
Well, I got a whole bunch of
Drown 'em.
kayaks in the backyard.
Drowned them.
Katie, you have a resolution authorizing the lease agreement between 984 Water Street and Meadville Medical Center.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Meadville authorizing signatures on a lease agreement for 984 Water Street between the City of Meadville and Meadville Medical Center. Resolved by the Council of the City of Meadville that the attached agreement is hereby approved and adopted substantially in the form attached hereto, subject to final approval by the city solicitor, as and for a binding and effective agreement of the City of Meadville in accord with its terms. And the mayor, controller, and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to execute and to attest such copies of the attached agreement in the manner required by law as may be reasonably required for the purposes of the parties thereto.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm going to turn it over to Gary Lazio to discuss.
Sure. So council, this came up a couple days ago. Meadville Medical Center is anticipating having a need to start another larger effort towards vaccinations locally. That changes day to day. You're seeing the newspaper reports on when guidance is going to come out and who specifically is going to be encouraged to get booster shots. But they're anticipating a need for a location. They did that at Peebles last year. That location's not available. They also wanted a location, they like the idea of having one more convenient within the city, right, where people can walk here. And in light of their plans also to have their subsidiary purchase the city building, which agreement is signed by them, by the way, for your information. And that'll be presented to the redevelopment authority for their signature if they've already approved it. It seemed to make sense in light of all those factors to discuss them leasing on a short-term basis that building. So they'd like to start as soon as Monday to get set up and then be ready to roll when it's time to start administering more vaccines locally.
Good move.
The lease is, it's 6 weeks. It could be extended if both parties need it, but it's anticipated that they're going to purchase that building prior to the end of September anyway. So I doubt there would be a reason to extend the lease. I think if anything, they'll be buying the building in a few weeks here, once their environmental assessment's completed. It provides for a rental payment of $1,500 per week to the city. So it's
Plus
extra
utilities.
revenue.
Plus utilities.
That's correct.
And they will maintain insurance, but we'll still have to keep it on our policy temporarily.
Correct.
Okay.
Any questions for Gary?
I have a comment, not necessarily for Gary, but I would hope that this money would be put into the real estate capital reserve fund, a dedicated fund.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get your attention. I was sincerely clearing my throat. But did you, the short term?
Well, just for real estate, let's just call it a real estate capital reserve fund, because in the years to come, we're going to need it. This place is going to need a roof in a few years. We are already replacing air conditioning systems. There'll be further work outside the borrowing for the Public Works and possibly the raising and reconstruction of one up by Porter Street footbridge, all of which are valid needs for real estate, and I'd like to have the money there in an account so that at least the interest, if not interest and some principal, if necessary, could be used. In other words, what I'm trying to avoid is I don't want this money to get diluted and scattered elsewhere into other accounts or for other uses, because it's one chance that we have.
Yeah, that makes sense, Jim, and I'm in support of that, but I wonder, did we decide how we're gonna set up these funds and break them up yet? So that fund doesn't actually
It doesn't
exist.
No.
We would just earmark it to be shifted into whatever fund, however we decide to set them up.
You can put a special line item, right?
Yep, we'll keep track of it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel?
Aye.
Stearns?
Aye. Resolution authorizing submission to Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Meadville authorizing submission of a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's Driving PA4 on-road rebate program for trucks and buses. Resolved by the Council of the City of Meadville that whereas the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection developed the on-road rebate program under the Driving PA4 initiative to improve air quality and drive transformation to cleaner, greener technologies. And whereas the city desires to complete and submit an application for the rebate program for the replacement of 3 public works dump trucks from 1997, 2004, and 2006. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Meadville that the appropriate city staff are hereby authorized to submit an application to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection on-road rebate program for the estimated total project cost of $288,000 with an estimated cost to the city of $86,400, and directed to take all action and to execute any and all appropriate documents associated with the grant application.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Mary Ann?
I'll let Gary Johnson take the lead on this.
Thanks, Wes. So essentially, yeah, these 3 trucks are actually in the 3-year capital borrowing right now. So council essentially blessed the purchase, well, blessed the funding of that. This would basically pay for about $201,000 worth of the $288,000 total cost for those 3 trucks. It's essentially it'll pay about 70% of those new trucks. It's really meant to try to get cleaner burning or cleaner energy, as Katie indicated in the resolution, to get cleaner energy on the road, get some of the older trucks off the road. From a pollution standpoint, we see it as a really good opportunity to get that $200,000 to pay for those trucks and maybe spend that money elsewhere potentially, or not exactly sure how to spend it, but it would save us about $200,000. So.
And are the trucks that we're replacing with cleaner just by virtue of being newer, or are they?
I believe so. I don't know that
not
there's any really radical technology in the trucks, but they also are required to have a certain life, the 3 to 5 years of life left in them, and these ones would, but basically they're going to pay us to get new trucks.
Are these gas, diesel, or compressed natural gas, or?
I'm pretty sure they're all diesel now, and they would be diesel, the new vehicles would be diesel as well. They would just be cleaner by newer diesel technology, but not I don't believe it's CNG or anything like that.
I also was looking here, it says trucks being replaced must have at least 3 years remaining useful life. But then it says trucks being replaced must be scrapped or rendered to permanently inoperable once the rebate is received.
I like that $4,600 that they were giving for cars a few years ago, and then they disabled the cars. In other words, if you traded the 1978 Chevy in, they'd give you $4,600, then they put this glass mixture in, ruined the engine so you couldn't drive it. So I think it's something along those lines.
The point being reducing emissions, not necessarily like.
So they don't want these older vehicles to just continue to be used and spew the pollution. They want those taken off the road and destroyed. So yes, that's what that's about.
It's first come, first serve. Is it competitive beyond that? Like, do we anticipate that we're gonna get it, or?
We're
is it-
hopeful. We're hopeful, yeah.
Great.
Thanks to Nathan and Debbie Coral on this one. They threw this together in a hurry.
She does an awful lot.
Mhm.
That's with all the other stuff. Any other comments, questions? Roll call.
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel?
Hi.
Stearns?
Okay, we have a resolution authorizing revisions. City of Meadville.
Resolution of the Council of the City of Meadville authorizing a revision of the Community Development Block Grant CV Fund and fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant allocations. Resolved by the Council of the City of Meadville that whereas Act 179 of 1984 established the Community Development Block Grant CDBG Entitlement Program to financially assist municipalities with a number of community development needs to benefit low and moderate income citizens. And whereas on March 27, 2020, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES Act, was signed into law to provide an immediate and direct response to the emergent crisis impacting the United States as a result of the coronavirus COVID-19 global pandemic. And whereas the City of Meadville and Resolution Number 62 of 2020, dated July 15, 2020, authorized the submission of an application for a total allocation of $193,732 to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for funding through the Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Program as part of the CARES Act, and in Resolution Number 73 of 2020, dated September 16, 2020, authorized the submission of an application for a total allocation of $324,118 to DCED. And whereas the City of Meadville is formally revising the fund allocations between projects to move $87,997.51 from the CDBG CV program allocation to the fiscal year 2020 Crawford County Coalition on Housing Needs Emergency Roof Replacement Project to cover an overage of the original quoted amount. $87,997.51 will be removed from the Center for Family Services COVID-19 Rent and Utility Assistance Program. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Meadville that Council does officially approve the revision of the CDBG CV funds to fund the Crawford County Coalition on Housing Needs Emergency Roof Replacement.
Motion. Second.
Second.
Discussion.
So the resolution basically says that most of it, so if council will recall, the 2020 annual CDBG application, the city allocated $52,846 to the Housing Coalition for their roof replacement. At that point in time, the estimated cost of the roof replacement was about $99,000. They had committed to making up the rest of those funds. Between COVID and increasing construction costs and labor costs, that estimated cost of the replacement ended up being closer to $173,000. So that put them at the shortfall of the $74,000. So Center for Family Services graciously offered to give up their portion of the CDBG CV funding to the Housing Coalition, so they may replace their roof.
Any questions?
And you had provided the context that they had gotten other grant funds to cover rent and utility assistance that is easier to use, and that frees up some of this, so it's not necessarily Rob and Peter that they all in like a sensitive.
That's correct. The Center for Family Services received about $5 million in ERAP monies. ERAP is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. They've spent about $2 million of that, but they still have $3 million. They have until September, the end of September of 2022 to give out that funding. It's just a lot to ask of them to give out that funding plus the CDBG CV funding. So it doesn't go to waste. We can give it to the Housing Coalition and give them something that they really need.
So folks could still go to the Center for Family Services, get that rent and utility assistance, and the Housing Coalition can also replace its roof.
Correct.
Any other questions? Roll call?
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel? Aye. Stearns?
Aye. We have a motion appointing,
We have a second.
I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm sorry, Resolution G, authorizing signatures. Go ahead.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Meadville authorizing signatures on an addendum to subrecipient agreement for community development block grant CV funds between the City of Meadville and Center for Family Services.
Motion, please. Motion. Second.
One second.
So the resolution here is just required due to the revision of the CDBG CV contract.
Any comments or questions? Roll call?
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel? Stearns?
Aye. We have a motion appointing Porter Consulting Engineering, Record of Meadville. Katie?
It's just a motion.
Oh, it's just a motion, we don't have a number. Oh, really?
I will so move.
Second?
Second.
Any comments? Mary Ann?
Just for context, this is required per Department of Community and Economic Development guidelines. So the city can pay for engineering services that Porter Consulting would offer out of the CDBG funds.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Roll call?
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel? Stearns?
Aye. Jim, I'll start with you this evening. Council members' comments?
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to extend best wishes to Debbie Coral for a speedy recovery. She had surgery, I think it was yesterday. We miss you, we want you back. So hopefully you are pain-free. That's all, Your Honor.
Byrd? Yeah, I echo what Jim said about Deb. And also, a couple weeks now, school's gonna be starting back. As we all know, the cases are starting to rise again. Please, if you're a parent, grandparent, make sure your child comes to school with a mask. This COVID is no joke, and the variant, from what I've heard, it's even worse. And we really need to stay on top of this. It's just amazing. I've actually lost family members from this. And it's one of the worst things that you can go through, not even being able to be there with them. So let's take it serious. School's coming back up. They're going to be on the buses. And I'll watch out for them as well. Leroy, you start next week. Watch out for the kids, watch out for the drivers out there, and wear your mask. They do help. They do help. What?
Sure. I'm really excited that we can kind of share resources to get people what they need. I'm really glad that we can give the money that's needed to replace the roof on the emergency shelter in South Main. I know it's such a valuable community resource. There aren't other shelters where families can stay together in the city, and it's really important that we keep that resource intact and available to folks. And I'm appreciative that Center for Family Services was willing to kind of share money that had already been allotted to them, and encourage folks. Right now, we are seeing support and resources coming out of COVID for folks, and I hope that folks take advantage and use what they need, whether that's rent and utility assistance through Center for Family Services and CHAPS, or something else that'll help us to make decisions about how we allocate the additional funds that are coming to us through American Rescue Plan Act and other things. And so, if there's needs that aren't being met still, or things that really aren't, matching the need that's out there, we should know that and we should hear that. So I hope that folks will share that information with us as well, but take advantage of what's out there and available. I feel a little badly. There were so many folks that were here and that waited for so much of the meeting, and then I'm so glad that the resolution passed to commit to diversity and hiring in our police department, but it felt a little anticlimactic and was fast. But I guess I just want to touch on, how exciting I think that can be and how exciting I think it is to treat kind of these, the jobs that we have, the opportunity to protect and serve our community as a good, well-paying job for people who want to stay here and be here, and really hoping that we can work with partner groups, NAACP. Chief Totten had ideas about working with the Current Technical Center about ways that we can encourage people to stay and stay in those jobs and serve our community in that way. And so excited that it passed, and excited for looking forward to ways that we can get folks who want to stay here in those good jobs.
Nothing? New reports? Okay.
Okay.
I just want to take a few minutes and thank everybody for all the work that they do. The virus the numbers are climbing, and I just ask people to be cautious and considerate of other individuals. But I am going to put some plugs in. I don't normally do this, but the Crawford County Fair starts this Saturday. It is celebrating its 75th anniversary of the fair, and so there are some changes that's been made that has been different than years before. So if you want to see fireworks, do not wait until the last Saturday of the fair, because there will not be any. So we're going to do the fireworks on Sunday the 22nd at 8:30. Celebration of the 75th historical building will be from 5 p.m. until 9, and then they crown the Queen. And a lot of individuals put a lot of work into the 75th anniversary for the fairgrounds. It's not going to be the fair like you normally see. You're not going to see the rides there. But I can tell you, I was up there today. I'm almost living there now. There are going to be a lot of food trucks there. So people like me, you'll have a good place to go and eat. Some great food's going to be up there. There'll be, you can go to their website, Crawford County Fair Board website, and you can see the listing of the horses, the drag races, and the demolition will be held on the last Saturday afternoon and evening. But the fireworks will be this Sunday. So that's kind of important because we get a lot of people up there who want to see the fireworks, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty amazing, hopefully. So with that, I just wish everybody safe and well-being, and I'll call for adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
To executive?
To executive session.
I'm sorry, and what's the executive sessions for?
Real estate and legal.
Okay. We got a motion, Jim?
So moved.
Second?
Did you second?
Oh,
I'm
second.
sure.
Roll call. We'll get this over with yet.
Donahue?
Aye.
McKnight?
Aye.
Roa?
Aye.
Vogel? Aye. Stearns?
Aye. Adjourned. Thank you for being here this evening.